Well, I'm curious because I've read some essays on it since President Trump began speaking this way, and I'm wondering if you agree that this may be a sort of signaling to China, a signaling to Russia that we're moving beyond the post-war, post-1945 world order, and instead he's talking about a sort of strongman sphere of influence where the United States basically it controls its sphere of influence. Russia takes Ukraine, controls its sphere of influence. China takes Taiwan and controls its sphere of influence. Is that what you believe is happening? And how do you think that will play with the Republicans in Congress, who, as you know, during his first term, pushed back mightily when they thought that he was yielding too much to Vladimir Putin?
I think you're exactly right. And actually, I think this is the grave danger of the situation. Because, look, there's a scenario someone could be watching this and say, oh, he's just leveraging in negotiations, less fees for U.S. ships going through the Panama Canal, or, Canadian concessions on certain trade issues, or maybe even just Greenland giving us access to more bases and mineral rights. First of all, none of those things, Joe, are kind of what Americans thought they were voting for. Thank God we finally are lowering the fees at the Panama Canal. But put that aside, it doesn't actually diminish the danger of what he's doing, because the norm, and I know that that's an out-of-date word, but the norm that he is essentially just erasing is state sovereignty. He's saying, I don't care what people in Denmark and Greenland say. I want Greenland. The Canada thing I take less seriously, but it's not that funny if you're Canadian to have someone joking about you no longer being a country. I mean, Panama, this is core to their identity, getting the canal back. And he is erasing state sovereignty at a time when that is not only the cornerstone of any world order, it is eroding already. Vladimir Putin has done the same thing in Ukraine. China wants to do the same thing in Taiwan and say, I don't care where the borders are drawn. I don't care what the international rules say. If you're a big country, you can do whatever you want. And I think Trump is sending this message. Hey, look, we're back in the days of the kind of pre-World War I, where the U.S. dominates this hemisphere, and we can do what we want in Panama, and Greenland's close by, and Canada better listen to us too. He's sending the same message that Vladimir Putin loves that message. His message was always to the United States, the former Soviet Union, that's my sphere of influence, stay out. China's message to Taiwan is, stay out of this part of East Asia. This is ours. And so I think he is embracing a kind of nationalist strongman politics that, again, can make for good short-term, nationalism and political nationalism in the country. But it's literally led to world wars in the past. And at a minimum, I think it's going to lead the rest of the world to kind of align against this type of behavior from the United States. In the Republican Party, I just don't see it, Joe, right now, coming from the Congress. I think what it's going to have to happen is we're going to have to break the spell on people a bit, that you can't oppose Trump on anything foundational to what he's saying, because I think there's people who know better in Congress who see where this is going and see that it's not just about USAID, it's about what is America in the world.
Ben, hi, it's Peter Baker. I wonder if you could go a little further on what you think about Ukraine, because I think actually in Ukraine is one area where he has sort of kept to the more isolationist view of his party. Why should we be spending money on somebody else's war? Let's not, invest any more in their arms. There's talk that President Trump will have a conversation with President Putin sometime in coming days. Zelensky, I think, is in Munich, where Vice President Vance is. What do you see happening there, and what are the implications if he tries to force an end to the war on terms that are more favorable to the Kremlin?
I mean, thus far, I think people are waiting for some shoe to drop. We have not seen a withdrawal of assistance. We have not seen any significant change in American behavior with respect to Ukraine. It may be, and I think there's a lot of hope, you talk to people in Europe, Peter, as I do, that Trump might actually escalate a little bit here to try to push things into a negotiation. So for the time being, the idea that the U.S. is kind of a guarantor in those talks for Ukraine. We're kind of standing behind them saying, make sure that, to the Kremlin, make sure that the deal you give these guys can at least pass muster, can at least get the Ukrainians to say yes. That's still holding. Again, my concern is the impact that Trump is having, not just on foreign policy, but on politics itself inside of the West. Because the United States even if he's saying that at the table, the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin knows we're not going to be giving Ukraine assistance in 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years. In Europe, Trump is a very disruptive force. And you see the rise of these far-right parties like the AfD in Germany that Elon Musk is boosting, who could care less about Ukraine, some of whom are actively hostile to Ukraine. People like Viktor Orban, his closest ally in Europe, Trump's closest ally, has been pretty much friendly to Putin's agenda when it comes to Ukraine. So even if we're saying the right things, Peter, I just worry where this politics is going. It's not a place in which Ukraine can feel that assured in commitments it gets from Europe and the United States.
For sure. And Ashley, before you go, other things you're looking at are sort of a narrative that we have here on the show. What is the signal versus the noise? Yesterday, President Trump wanted it to be called Gulf of America Day. Was it Gulf of America Day?
So that I would put as more of the noise. Sort of, he was trying to do, frankly, his own Super Bowl Sunday stunt. He had already mentioned in his scripted inauguration speech that he wants to rename it as the Gulf of America. He then, in his first flurry of executive orders, signs an executive order renaming it, or saying he wants it renamed the Gulf of America. That's not unilaterally quite in his control. So sort of, he's made his point. He's messaged it. He's branded it as a showman, but he knows he has this opportunity. He's getting on Air Force One at his private Mar-a-Lago club. It is going to fly over the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, on his way to the Super Bowl, and he could not resist bringing the press into the front cabin to sign a proclamation making it Gulf of America Day. I think most people still remember it as Super Bowl Sunday.
Okay. The new reporting is online now. Staff writer at The Atlantic, Ashley Parker, thank you so much. And former Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes, thank you as well. His latest piece in The Times is available to read online right now. And Peter